You're not supposed to be on centre stage here. Okay, if you could all just resume your seats, please. Next up, we've got, for around about 10 or 15 minutes, we're going to hear from Scotty Harrison, who is one of those people I've been talking about, a statistician.
Yeah,
and he's from Armidale.
Yeah.
And we'd like to welcome him. Thank you, Scott.
So yeah, my name's Scotty Harrison. As we have up here, this is just my little bit of credentials, but it sometimes helps clarify things, perhaps the perspective that I come to this discussion with. So I'm currently a PhD candidate in health economics, but I've done my Bachelor of Economics and I focused on hospital productivity back in the days and managed to get first class honours. So that was a bit of an achievement in time in life, but that gives you an idea as to about who I am. Okay, so one of the main ideas is I wanted to bring a bit of a personal aspect to this debate because for me personally, I grew up and I had allergies. Eczema, asthma, ADD, and sorry Meryl, this might be something that you're going to refer to later, but these were some of the things that, we have essentially associated with vaccinations here. So I was vaccinated as a kid. And one of the key things is, and since I saw Meryl, I'm just going to put it out there, when I was talking to you in Inverell, you suggested on the AVM website, I went through some of the blogs, and it is really kind of appalling how this debate is perhaps being conducted. And so I just wanted to put out there, I don't condone bullying or any of the, any of the issues that have been going on here with, the AVN, and I think it's just really important to have a nice open discussion about things. So, all right, thank you. So, surprisingly enough, you'll see this graph here. It looks remarkably similar to what Greg had up just before. So, this comes from, I guess, great minds think alike, in that, I've titled it Vaccinations Necessary. And as a statistician, one of the things that I saw when I looked at this graph is, what's that role that vaccinations are really playing? And if we look at this graph in particular, what you see is this decline coming down. And as a statistician, one of the things we love is trends. We love looking at that information. We go like, why is this happening? Anyone got any ideas as to why this is actually happening? Yeah? Better food, sanitation. There were so many things going on in the world that was actually improving our quality of life. So how can we attribute it to vaccinations? Doesn't make logical sense. There were so many other things going on. So, here's my little reference down the bottom here. Got from the vaclibrary.org. Worthwhile having a look if you get a chance. So, as a statistician, I just wanted to make a bit of a clarification because it's one of those things that statistics speak for themselves, right? And we look at statistics, and quite often it's really important. I actually teach teach and help teach some of the first-year statistics at university, and this is often one of the biggest mistakes our first-year students make. Okay, and I call it the ice cream analogy. So you look at skin cancer rates around beaches, and they're going up. Okay, and you look at ice cream sales around beaches, and they also go up. Okay. So if skin cancer rates are going up, and ice cream sales are going up, does that not then imply that ice cream is causing skin cancer? Well, as a statistician, we call this a logical fallacy, and essentially it comes to the basic idea that no, okay? We can't actually say that one thing causes another through correlation, okay? And we call this correlation implies causation, or it has an even more specific name, but I'm not even going to try and attempt to pronounce it because it is flawed. So one of the key things to understand here, and what you'll see a lot often in the debate, is that idea that we look at a correlation between one thing and another, and we say, hey, this is clearly causing it, and it's like not true. So using our analogy, it'd be easier to actually see what's going on. That is, people who go to the beach, expose themselves to the sun heating up, and they cool off by buying ice cream. So the idea is essentially, whilst there's a relationship between skin cancer and ice cream sales, we're not saying that ice cream causes skin cancer, okay? It's the sun. So many people don't actually get this concept, and it's a really important one when we start looking at statistics. So how about vaccinations? And this is, as I said, this is essentially the same one. I've only used diphtheria, but Greg's provided a really good library of other graphs that you can draw upon. So, if you want to, please get a copy of the slides. Now, What you'll see here with our diphtheria graph is exactly what Greg was describing. It has deaths here. And we've already alluded to the idea that essentially people are living better quality lives without vaccinations. So what's going on? Well, Greg, I'm really sorry, but this is what I went to. Dun, 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 notifications data, da, da, da. Okay. And it tells a little bit of a different story. And what we see here with notifications is here at 1932, we have the diphtheria vaccination commenced. That was our DTP. It started here in 1953. I think that's right about the same time Greg, introduced it. And so, one of the key things that, someone who was pro-vaccination might actually go is, hey, look at this little line down here. It's flat. Well, as Greg alluded to, there is issues. Perhaps with notification data, it can be questioned. But so can not collecting data. So can not collecting that information. Okay? And if we think about it in a logical sense, if there's a real potential that perhaps when people, don't go to their GP to get medical advice or seek out their conditions, what we're actually doing in our notifications data is underestimating what's happening. So it's pretty possible that up here, we've got these really big fluctuations in the graph, and there might actually be more cases of diphtheria being actually occurring in society than what is happening in the real world in terms of the notifications. But I'm sorry, Greg, I disagree. This here is a pretty strong case to indicate that perhaps diphtheria is no longer with us. How many cases have we heard of diphtheria in the modern times? No. It is not reported anymore, not in Australia. Okay? But we still collect the information. We still keep an eye out for it. It's still on one of the essential notification components that we have to collect information on from our GPs. So this is the most important part. Notifications does not equal deaths. And so I'm going to sort of provide a little bit of a contrary argument to what Greg put out there. Most importantly, people are already living longer lives from better healthcare, with or without vaccines. That's what that downward trend was all about. But this means that people who contracted diseases may not die as a result. So what actually happens is they live longer lives, suffering the permanently disabling components of what those diseases caused. So imagine living with diphtheria lesions for a lifetime. And as I said, there's a warning on the next slide, guys. Just look away if you have a weak stomach. But this is a diphtheria lesion. This here is an area where the skin has broken and it's actually eaten down into the muscle mass itself. It's really quite disturbing in terms of a visual image, but that's what diphtheria does to you. Now, we're really lucky. We don't have any instances of this happening anymore in Australia. But whooping cough, well, here's one. And Greg was quite right. We had periods of time where we didn't collect data. It was something that went off our radar. It was something that we didn't need to focus on. So what we have here is the start in the 1940s of introducing our whooping cough vaccination. And then in about 1953, we have the DTP vaccination introduced, okay, and then around about here, around about 1979, we started collecting data on whooping cough, and what you'll see here, our flat line, very little to no incidences being reported. What happens in about 1992 here? Well, we get a mutant strain, okay, of whooping cough that actually now effectively bypasses our vaccination. The vaccination was essentially for whooping cough. We now have whooping cough A, or pertussis A. And our vaccination doesn't work on that. So the rates of whooping cough has been increasing. You might have heard this a bit in the media. So one of the other points I really want to talk on is the role of herd immunity. Now, I grew up on a farm. It was one of those really important things that for us, when you had a herd of sheep, you really wanted to make sure that when you were jetting sheep for, say, worms, that you got them all. I had a really bad experience where I was in charge of the gate, the release gate, after they'd been jetted, and one got out before it had been drenched. And the problem was, it actually went on to reinfect the rest of the herd with worms, and we had to go through the whole process again, and a lot of costs and expenses. And essentially you can argue that immunisation works the same. If everyone is covered, then the disease can't take root within the herd or society, as we might be better, more aptly talking about it, okay? Because we're talking about lives, we're talking about people, okay? It's not just sheep. So this sort of brings to the end my personal presentation, because as a statistician, one of the key things I'm going to say is I don't feel personally that my allergies, that my asthma, that my ADD, it was caused by vaccinations. Okay? I feel that these were perhaps external symptoms. But for me personally as a child, I was really glad that I got vaccinated because I suffered from allergies, eczema, asthma, ADD. It meant that perhaps my immunological system was not operating at optimum in the first place. So something like measles, if that took root in my system, could have potentially been lethal. So what I would say here is if you believe in vaccine injured, and this is a term we see thrown out, find out what is disease injured. Because in comparison, it's really scary, okay? What these diseases will do to you will dwarf what the adverse reactions of any vaccine can be. And so one of the key things there is go and speak to your GP, okay? And not celebrity endorsements. That's my little jibe at Jenny McCarthy. So for those of you who know Jenny, well, you know possibly where I sit. So that brings to an end my presentation. I do have with me a nice little booklet. If anyone would like a copy, you can come and see me. It's called Myths and Realities. Okay? And it's a health department publication that essentially spells out a lot of the arguments as to why you should get vaccinated, and perhaps some of the arguments you'll hear tonight against vaccination. So if you're interested in getting a copy, by all means, please come and see me. Alright, so we'll leave it there. Thank you very much, Meryl and Greg, for letting me speak tonight. I hope I've helped provide a little bit of even debate there, and it was really good. So,
good job, Scott.
Thank you, Greg. Thanks, Meryl.
Thanks, Scott.
Thank you, Scott. We didn't know what Scott was going to talk about before he got